Hey Faith family, welcome back to our finale of our Galatians Bible Study series. I can't believe we made it all the way to chapter 6. It has been an incredible journey so far. If you're new here, I'm so glad that you're joining us. And if you're not new, I'm so glad that you stuck around. If you missed any of the previous videos, feel free to go back and watch the rest of the series that you missed so you can catch the full message of what Paul has been relaying to us in this powerful book. Don't forget the vital role that you play as I build my social media platforms. When you hit those like and subscribe buttons, the notification bell, as well as sharing my videos, this helps me reach further out into the webiverse than I could ever on my own. So thank you so much in advance. Let's get to it. As we jump into chapter 6, let's do a quick look back at chapter 5. Paul reminded us that Christ set us free, not to go wild, but to walk in the Spirit. We talked about the war between the sinful nature and the Spirit-led life, and how those two are constantly pulling us in opposite directions. And Paul gave us these two helpful lists: the fruit of the sinful nature, what life looks like without Christ leading the way, and the one we're more familiar with, the fruit of the Spirit, showing us what a Christ-filled life looks like when we let God lead us from the inside out. This sets the perfect foundation for chapter 6, where Paul shows us how the Spirit-led living plays out in our relationship with other believers. So as we get into chapter 6, we're going to break it down into sections just like we did in all the other chapters. In this first section of this final chapter, Paul starts out talking about gently calling out Christians. In verse 1, Paul talks about something that we don't talk about enough in church, honestly. What to do when fellow believers fall into sin and starts acting out of line of what God calls us to. He says, restore them gently. Not aggressively, not gossiping about them, not acting like we're their judge or jury. When we walk in the Spirit, our connection comes from humility, not superiority. Our goal is restoration, not humiliation. We're not going to be talking about that person behind their back. We're going to go to them directly, and we're going to talk to them. Now, I've been called out in my own life a time or two, and it never felt good in the moment. But as I was able to process things and just step back, I saw the hearts of the ones who called me out in those moments. They were people I looked up to spiritually and had great respect for. I knew they wanted nothing more from me than to live up to all God has in store for me in my life and all He's called me to be. It was in their loving and open approach that I was able to understand I needed to shape up and I needed to get better. It didn't happen overnight, but as I began to work on those areas of my life that were called out, I began to change and I began to look more and more like Jesus, which is the point of our lives. And to this day, I still have to work at it, but I try my hardest to not be that person that I once was. So now we get into section 2. Carrying each other's burdens. Paul tells us to carry each other's burdens, and that in doing so, we fulfill the law of Christ, which is the law of love. This means we're not called to live isolated Christian lives. When a brother or sister is weighed down, struggling emotionally, spiritually, financially, relationally, we're not supposed to look away. We're to step in. We're to show up. We help carry what's too heavy for them to carry alone. If you're someone who is more introverted, taking that step to reach out to someone you see is having a hard time can be pretty difficult. Just find a way to meet with that person in an environment that's comfortable for the both of you. If you like coffee, go for coffee. If you enjoy shopping, meet for a shopping trip. Build the opportunity to let the person know that they're not alone and that you're available to be any support the person may need. Section 3 might get a lot of us right here between the eyeballs. Don't think of yourself better than you are. In verses 3 to 5, Paul keeps it real. Don't think you're too important to help someone. Don't think you're above serving, above compassion, above correction, or being corrected. He says each one should test their own actions. In other words, stay humble. Focus on what you are doing, not comparing yourself to anyone else. Your load is yours and their load is theirs. Hear me when I say this. Comparison kills contentment, and pride kills spiritual growth. Paul says, stay in your lane, stay humble, and stay teachable. Now, section 4, verses 7 to 10, is about you reap what you sow. Paul hits us with these verses with a principle that applies to absolutely every area of our life: spiritual, emotional, relational, even physical. He says, "Do not be deceived. God is not mocked. A man reaps what he sows." If we sow to please the sinful nature, bitterness, gossip, selfishness, laziness, sexual, we harvest destruction. But if we sow to the Spirit, faithfulness, discipline, generosity, prayer, kindness, those seeds grow into a harvest of life. So many people are out there upset with where their lives are at, and God usually gets blamed for it, when really, if they listen to how God calls us to live, they wouldn't be in the positions that they find themselves in. Sexual sins, substance abuse, greed, selfishness, the list goes on. So many lives would look so different if this truth was accepted and followed. And then Paul encourages us, don't get tired of doing good. Even when you don't see results, keep planting. A harvest is coming. This reminder is so important because it can be so hard to follow faithfully when you don't get what you desire right away. So jot verse 9 down if you too need this encouragement to keep pressing forward. And then we get to section 5, don't boast on outward measures. In verses 11 to 14, Paul is starting to wrap his letter up by exposing the motives of the false teachers. They're trying to make the Galatian believers get circumcised so they can brag about it and look good outwardly. But Paul says the truth. They can't even fully keep the law themselves. They're more interested in looking holy than being holy. So Paul says, I will not boast in anything except the cross of Jesus Christ. If there is any man in the Bible I think has all right to boast about where he was to where he is and where he was now in this book, I think it would be him. There is a total 180 done in this man's life. But he says, I will not boast in anything except the cross of Jesus Christ. Not in my works, not in my achievements, not in how spiritual I appear, only in Jesus Christ. And what a powerful reminder that is for us today. Stop looking at ourselves and start looking at him. And then we get to our final section, what matters most, being a new creation. Paul closes by hitting the heart of everything he's been saying from chapter 1 to now. Neither circumcision nor uncircumcision means anything. What counts is the new creation. In other words, it's not about rules, it's not about rituals, it's not about religious performance. It's about being made brand new through Jesus Christ. Your identity is not what you do, your identity is what Jesus has already done. And in my closing challenge for you today, I want you to go over chapter 6 yourself if you haven't already. I want you to read it, and then I want you to ask those 3 questions we have asked the whole time. I want you to ask, what did this passage say to you? What are the lessons that you found in this passage? And how can you apply this passage to your life today? And then, as we are coming to the end of this book of Galatians, here's the big question I want you to ask yourself. Are you living as a new creation, walking by the Spirit and loving one another the way Christ has loved us? Galatians isn't just theology. It's transformation, it's freedom, and it is life. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey through Galatians. If this series has blessed you, let me know in the comments. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next. I love you all, Faith family, and remember, stay faithfully fit inside and out. See you in the next video.